We've been covering the pre-campaign struggles that Republican Senator Tim Scott has been having. He created an exploratory committee for president, meaning he's preparing to run for president and will likely announce soon. And one of the first difficulties he's had now that he's gotten all this extra media attention is explaining what his stance is on abortion, and more specifically an abortion ban, a national abortion ban. If he were president, that came to his desk, would he sign something like that, a 15-week abortion ban or whatever it might be? And I'll show you the clips we went over in past segments, so you don't have to go find that. I'll update you on that just a little bit from these clips. And also the thing I have for you today that is new, where he finally clarifies more specifically his stance on a national abortion ban, but in a hilarious way, I have to tell you. So before we get to that, let me show you the past clips I'm referencing. This was his first attempt at explaining where he stands on a national abortion ban.
Yes, sir.
Would you support a federal ban on abortions?
I would simply say that the fact of the matter is, when you look at the issue of abortion, one of the challenges that we have, we continue to go to the most restrictive conversations without broadening the scope and taking a look at the fact that I'm 100% pro-life. I never walk away from that. But the truth of the matter is that when you look at the issues on abortion, I start with the very important conversation I had in a banking hearing when I was sitting in my office and listening to Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, talk about increasing the labor force participation rate for African-American women who are in poverty by having abortions. I think we're just having the wrong conversation. Yes, sir.
So as I said when I covered this originally, sir, the question was, do you support a national abortion ban? That was a whole lot of words with a whole little meaning. And then we had this during another interview.
As president, if you were president, would you advocate for federal limits?
Yeah. So once again, I'm 100% pro-life, and I do believe that. No, that's not what I said. I do believe that we should have.
So then his campaign, they had a conversation likely, okay, we can't do the whole, yeah, but no. 100%, but like not really. For sure, but no. That's not going to work forever. We're going to have to give some sort of answer. And this is what we got.
I want to talk about what you want to control too.
Yes,
Specifically, one of the big debates that's going to happen in 2022, that's already been happening now, is around the idea of abortion care.
By the way, sorry, I know you want to watch the clip. We're going to watch it. But this whole interview style, and it makes for really annoying audio, I'm sure, for our podcast listeners and even video viewers, of, oh, it's like we're in a restaurant and we're just having a normal conversation, except I have a microphone on, you have a microphone on, I have makeup on, you have makeup on, and there's bright lights, and we've instructed the other people in the diner not to stare at the camera, and it's definitely really natural though. And also, we're not putting any food in our mouth, but there's food in front of us for some reason. And then that's supposed to be all cool, and it's like a normal conversation, except I just can't hear you as well.
Yesterday in New Hampshire, you said you would back a 20-week abortion ban. Overnight, Florida passed a law that would ban it at 6 weeks. Do you agree with that?
Well, I would just say the truth is that when we have a culture of life, I support the culture of life, number one. Number two, I'm proudly 100% pro-life. I am so thankful that I had an opportunity to vote for the 3 Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe v. Wade. I celebrate that. So every time a state, of course, adopts a decision, states have the ability to have the most conservative bills that they can get passed in their legislature. I support the culture of life.
Okay, so we're going to watch more, and it gets so funny because he contradicts himself. But I support a culture of life. You know that was written on a whiteboard in their little meeting. Okay, what are we going to... Tim Scott campaign on abortion. What are we going to say? Ooh, well, how about this culture of life? Okay, that sounds kind of promising. What does that mean? I don't know, but it sounds nice. Continuing.
But is 6 weeks the right mile marker?
Well, the people have decided that their elected leaders have the opportunity to do so. So I say absolutely, as the culture of life is being protected, we should celebrate that. States will have different varying views on that, but yes, If I were president of the United States, I would literally sign the most conservative pro-life legislation that they can get through Congress.
Even if it was 6 weeks.
I'm not going to talk about 6 or 5 or 7 or 10. I'm just saying that whatever the most conservative legislation is that can come through Congress
Is what you would sign.
Okay, ready? He says the most conservative legislation, so presumably ban abortion across the board, no exceptions. That's what that means. He doesn't seem courageous enough to just say that, but that's what that means. Most conservative thing that comes to my desk if I were to be president. And that would be at the national level. Now, the follow-up's absolutely perfect. Take a look.
Yes.
How do you square then the idea from Dobbs? The idea from there was to kick it back to the states and allow them to either pass the most conservative or to allow abortion to remain legal. How do you square the states' rights issue with the potential for a national ban that would set a federal mile marker?
Well, no one's talking about a national ban, number one. Number two, I would simply say that there's no doubt.
So you wouldn't back any kind of national ban?
We're doing, I'm not going to do a bunch of hypotheticals, but what I am going to say is that
With all the respect in the world, running for office quite literally is all about hypotheticals. What would you do here? What would you do here? You're not actually president yet, so we have to ask you hypothetical questions. I love whenever politicians do that. I'm not in the game of playing hypotheticals. Yeah, like what type of president you would be. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I'll just stop it there for the sake of time. No, let's watch a little bit more. But he says, I support states' rights at the beginning. That's why he's for these abortion bans in individual states. Then he gets asked, would you sign an abortion ban? He says, I'll sign the most conservative abortion bill that comes to my desk. And then he gets asked, so how do you square that with states' rights? Because that would be mandating on every state a certain stance. And this is what we get.
the fact is that Dobbs sent the decision to the states. 100% agree with that. Our friends on the left in the Senate, they want to have abortion from a federal perspective up until the day of birth. I oppose that. If it requires...
My goodness, okay. And it just keeps going. I talked more extensively in past segments and the past Tim Scott segment about that particular talking point where they create a problem about late-term abortions happening outside of medically necessary instances. Again, they're just inventing a problem. Oh, these women, they're going and they're like, haha, never mind, 9th month, I'm out. Just isn't something that is an honest talking point. But that justifies the most conservative abortion ban possible. Their invention of a problem about late-term abortions happening, again, outside of when, for example, the life of the mother's on the line, the fetus becomes non-viable, etc., medically necessary instances. That's why we shouldn't ban it after whenever they think it's too far on the federal level, but all the way down to as small as you can possibly get it, as early as you can get it. Something seems a little odd about that, Tim Scott, but all of it is just, I guess I'll say, if it wasn't so dishonest, it would be hilarious to observe, but it's enraging because I'm being all silly, and I've said it before that the only way I can stay somewhat sane doing this particular job is to have a lighthearted approach to some of these enraging stories. But at the end of the day, what is he talking about here? He's willy-nilly not even able to explain if he's for taking away the rights of women or not. And that's horrendous. And that is not something that's funny, and I get that. But his managing of this political problem, it's a little funny.